Hi brewers, and welcome to another episode of Ultralow Brewing. In this video, we'll be running through our Brew-day on this delicious non-alcoholic Pilsner. Using the high mash temperature and low gravity method, this beer came in at just 0.4% ABV. Packing a full-bodied light malty base and a smooth bitterness with some subtle spice and floral from the Saaz hops. As per usual, the recipe is listed in the description below, along with some key notes to observe to get as close to this beer as possible. Alternatively, you can follow the link to the Brewfather app to view the recipe and notes. Let's get started. As I'm doing a full volume mash, I fill the pot with the full amount of water required to reach my final volume using RO filtered water. I then set my controller to a strike temperature of 82 degrees Celsius. Turn the heat on and place the lid on. While that's heating up, I'll measure my grain bill and water salts. I'll start my grain bill with some Marisota as my base malt. Next is a heavy dose of carapils to boost the dextrins, mouthfeel and body of the beer. Some flake barley to add some more body and mouthfeel. A little melanoid malt to drive some complexity and more malt flavour. And finally, a little bit of Carafa 3 for colour. With the grains measured, I'll weigh my salts. I'll be adding some calcium sulfate to crisp up the taste and add some dryness. A little calcium chloride to add fullness and a roundness for a little more mouthfeel. Some sodium chloride to emphasise a malty flavour. And of course some well flock to clarify the wort. With the water at my strike temperature of 82 degrees Celsius, it's time to set up the mash. Give the grain a gentle stir, place the lid back on, set the timer for 30 minutes and leave it to mash away. With the 30 minutes finished, it's time to lift the lid and remove the grain bag. With the grains removed, I'll transfer the fresh wort to my boil kettle. If you're using an all-in-one brewing kettle such as a Brewzilla or Grainfather system, or doing this in a single vessel pot, you don't need to transfer the wort for the boil. With the wort transferred, it's time to move on to the boil. This is also a great time to measure the specific gravity of the wort to ensure I've reached my target pre-boil gravity. For this recipe, I'll be doing 2 hop additions of Saaz. The first will be a 30-minute bittering addition at the start of the boil. The second will be added at 5 minutes left of the boil for a flavour addition. With both of the hop additions measured out, it's time to check on our boil. With the wort at a nice rolling boil, it's time to add the first hop addition and set the timer for 30 minutes. At the 10-minute mark, I'll also add my well flock. With 5 minutes left of the boil, it's time to add the second addition. With the 30 minutes done, it's time to cut the heat to the boil. If you're chilling the wort, this is a perfect time to start circulating through your chiller. But because I'm no chilling, this isn't necessary for me. I'll also take a small sample to measure my post-boil gravity, which will then become my original gravity. With a sanitised hose, I'll transfer the hot wort to a cleaned and sanitised, food-safe plastic container to cool naturally overnight. If you've used a chiller to cool the wort, you can transfer it directly to your fermenter, ready for your pH adjustment and yeast pitch. Before I pitch my yeast, I'll need to measure my wort pH to determine how much acid I'll need to add to ensure it will finish within a food-safe level below 4.6 to prevent pathogenic spoilage. It is important to use a freshly calibrated digital meter to be sure that you get an accurate reading. I'll be adding a small dose of lactic acid to lower my pH to 4.6, allowing the yeast to drop it a few more points to a finished target of 4.3. With the wort pH adjusted, it's time to pitch the yeast. I'll be using the Lalliman London Ale yeast. Though it's not a lager strain, it does produce a clean profile that is well suited, and being maltodextrinous negative, it is great for low and no alcohol beers. We'll leave it for a week to ferment. After having the beer fermenting for 7 days, it's time to check for final gravity to ensure fermentation has finished. It is important to measure the samples over 2 to 3 days to be sure no further activity has taken place. With fermentation done, it's time to transfer the beer to a keg for carbonation and conditioning. With my keg in the fridge, attach the gas line and start filling it with CO2, and purge the headspace of any oxygen. I'll leave it connected to the gas to carbonate and condition until it's ready to drink. That's all there is to this simple, tasty, non-alcoholic Pilsner. Be sure to click the like button, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for future videos and more beers. Until next time brewers, cheers.